grad student, and my entry for the material library is wood glue. Wood glue comes in many different varieties, but it's essentially just a blend of water, petroleum, and polyvinyl acetate, which is PVA. PVA is a type of plastic, so wood glue can actually become its own material with a certain amount of structural integrity, not just a thing you use to bond other materials to each other. So we've got Titebond, Gorilla Glue, and Elmer's wood glue, and then I also brought a Titebond that is translucent, dries translucent. These are all slightly different colors, and they dry different shades of yellow, except for this one, so just depending on how much added color the company put in. It just depends on how they think the yellow will match the color of the wood you're using, basically. But I'm gonna use the Elmer's wood glue and just pour some of it into this form, because wood glue is essentially plastic. It doesn't stick to other plastics. So you can use plastic molds, you can use plexiglass. I often will build up molds with air dry clay or normal clay and then just break the mold to get the glue out at the end. But this one will peel out really easily. Just pour it in there. Yeah, and this will probably take a week to dry. Depends on the humidity and the temperature of wherever you are doing this. The cool thing about it is that you can also, not in this mold because it's already as full as it'll go without spilling over the edges, but with other molds you can build up layers over time, so you can get pieces really thick. And depending on the glue, it'll dry pretty hard, but for a while it'll have a workability to it that'll allow you to bend it into a certain shape before it becomes too brittle. This is an example of dried glue, and you can see some of the air dry clay mold that is still on the edges. I forgot to mention this too, though. If you use clay as a barrier, like this one, obviously a lot of the clay is still stuck to it, but you can break it off. Or you can coat it in a carnauba wax or another kind of wax, and it'll peel off more easily at the end as well. I was trying to stiffen fabric for a while, and I was playing with different ways to do that. And then I eventually just dunked a bunch of fabric in wood glue and then saw what happened. And then I just started pouring it into sheets to see what it could do. It was mostly driven by curiosity and wanting to be able to work with plastic in a way that was, I don't know if sustainable is the right word, because it's still plastic, so it'll still be here for a really long time, but that was less toxic and that gave me more agency over the shapes that I could achieve. And then I just kept playing with it from there and seeing how big of pieces I could make and sort of how much would hold itself together, if that makes sense. I've used it for smaller components and lots of big pieces. I've used it with lace to drape fabric, and then the biggest or most ambitious thing I've done with it was I made a mold that was, I don't know, this big by maybe this big, and it was full of these different holes, and then over months and months I built up a maybe 3/4 inch thick just giant cast wood glue piece, and then pulled it out, and it does this nice flexy thing, and I could sort of bend it and it would slouch and etc. But I've also made smaller pieces that are where I'm treating the wood glue more like fabric, sort of like a quilt, and attaching it to other squares of other kinds of glue. I think a lot of it has to do with pushing a material to do a thing that it's not intended to do, and I'm interested in seeing what happens there. I also like that, like I said, it has this flexibility after I pop it out of the mold, and the material continues to cure for months afterwards, and I've only been working with it for maybe a year and a half, so I'm excited to see how the work itself continues to evolve. The pieces I've already made through time and over time, and I know they'll hold together because again it's mostly plastic, but like that really interests me, that the material itself is continually changing as well, and the malleability of it too really depends on the thickness and other materials that you use it with, which is really exciting as a sculptor, just to see the possibilities of it. I guess just have a lot of rags and damp rags around you when you're working with it. Clean up spills. Yeah, that's the only hot tip. Also maybe some, of course I forget the name, but the orange soap with the little, yeah, great for getting it off your hands as well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.